What's the most fucked up thing the US government has done? You want this chronological or alphabetical? I mean, there was the time the National Guard shot and killed coal miners and their families who were being horribly exploited by coal companies, so they were striking. See also, the Ludlow Massacre. And the time they decided to routinely sterilize Native American women. And the Guatemala syphilis experiments. Back in the 50s and 60s, the U.S. military tested several different biological weapons on and unbeknownst to the public. They specifically targeted low-income and poverty-stricken areas. They tested things from chemicals to viruses. It wasn't declassified till 10 years ago. The CIA testing birth control on unsuspecting women in Puerto Rico. The things they haven't been caught for. Operation Wetback. Along the lines, same ethics of the Japanese internment camps. But not as well known. Currently, they are abusing the fact that the whole population is tunnel visioning on the corona pandemic to pass a highly controversial bill that will grant them access to every single phone call or message passed, sent, received on American soil. Without warrant or court order. Edit. Okay guys, this comment officially has gained 50 times more upvotes than my most upvoted post. And first award ever too. She ate. Edit 2. Source credit to you, Elvert_BB for this. Found this helpful summary of the bill. Actual bill for those that can read law, Earn IT Act 2020. Okay, who is the crackhead who gave me plat? The involvement in various Latin American countries during the Cold War was pretty ducked up. The government has been trying to take away all privacy. I am sure that for every ducked-up thing we know about there are even worse things that we don't. The silencing, embarrassing, and killing of Gary Webb. Gary Webb was an investigative journalist who proved that the CIA was selling massive amounts of drugs, particularly cocaine, to typically black, poor neighborhoods all over the U.S. This was in order to fund an overthrow of the Nicaraguan government by U.S. friendly terrorists during the 90s. He was forced to resign. Disgraced, blacklisted, divorced, and found dead with 2 bullets through his head in 2004. It was ruled a suicide despite the facts he owned no guns. And it being 2 bullets through the head in a suicide. Agent Orange. Depleted uranium arms that polluted battlefields, people's homelands, and left generations of people with birth defects after the war was done. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Sandy Creek Massacre. 500 Colorado cavalry were sent to track down natives that were attacking settlers, for good reason, but that is a long story. They ended up coming to a Cheyenne village that was known to be peaceful. Its leader, Black Kettle, was a voice of peace for the natives and had even gone to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Lincoln and negotiate a lasting peace between Americans and Cheyenne. Lincoln gave him an American flag and told him that so long as it flew in their camp, no American would harm them. Anyways, this asshole Chivington was leading the cavalry, and saw it as some kind of noble duty. After months of searching for aggressive natives and coming up empty-handed, the government ordered him to disband his force and go home. Chivington, now faced with the prospect of his crusade being an embarrassment, decided to attack Black Kettle's village. Basically just to say he did something. The Colorado cavalry attacked in the middle of the night in mid-November, while everyone was sleeping. Eyewitness accounts are terrifying. And basically women, children, and men were run down as they tried desperately to flee across a frozen river. Black Kettle ran into the middle of the battle waving the American flag and screaming that they were friends of America. But the Americans turned on him and he was forced to drop the flag and flee as well. The fact that Black Kettle survived is miraculous. But most of his clan did not. And the few that survived the battle mostly died of hypothermia and starvation from literally fleeing through a frozen river in the middle of the night. Cavalry men raped live and dead women, including children, and cut off male and female genitals and strapped them to their horses as decorations. Black Kettle and what remained of his clan ended up getting sent to a reservation, where they mostly starved to death. And Black Kettle gave up on peace as the younger generation flocked to warlords like Roman Nose and Crazy Horse. This ended up contributing to Red Cloud's War, as did most of the other atrocities in the West. Also Chivington was known to have said, "Nits make lice." a statement that referred to his campaign of exterminating native children along with everyone else. Oh, and I am already sure Colorado nearly elected him governor after all of this anyways. The Dred Scott decision, involvement in the Vietnam War, Agent Orange, and slavery are the most ducked up that I can think of. Well, this probably isn't the worst thing America has done since it didn't happen. But Operation Northwoods. This was a proposed false flag attack on U.S. soil that would justify going to war with Cuba. It was rejected by Kennedy. But approved by every man before him. It's stuff like this that makes the whole 9/11 inside job conspiracy sound a little less wacky. Because this was essentially the same thing. Sent me a letter telling me that I had figured my taxes wrong. If they knew, why didn't they just do it for me? The Diego Garcia incident in the 1968. Which is also one of the worst things the UK government has done. For the UK to continue purchasing nuclear missiles from America. They asked to rent out the British island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean to use as a naval base. The UK then subsequently sent soldiers onto the island. Forced all of the inhabitants off of the island. Killed anybody who resisted. Destroyed all homes and killed all the animals so US soldiers could then turn the island into a naval base. Any ex-inhabitants who tried to speak out about the incident were immediately silenced and punished. And the details of the incident were only recently made public. The island is still a joint UK-US naval base to this day. Hard to rank them, but the Gulf of Tonkin incident was a U.S. false flag operation to establish the pretext to invade Vietnam to stop the spread of communism. Leading to the absolutely useless deaths of millions of military and civilians only to have the U.S. pull out and cede control of the entire country to communist control. The most ducked up thing about it is that our government knew it was an unwinnable war, but we stayed there anyway, throwing more bodies on the pile. The news media kept a daily running count of U.S. dead. The U.S. Gov. measured success in terms of number of enemy dead. Gulf of Tonkin. And subsequently the Vietnam War. The Trail of Tears is pretty up there for most ducked up thing. Edit. Yes, I know slavery happened. I'm not arguing that this was worse, I just named the first thing that popped into my head. Shuffles deck Pics card not doing anything about the AIDS epidemic. Burning and bombing of Black Wall Street. We overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran when the people didn't vote for who we wanted. Edit. Down with the military-industrial complex. Great nations don't fight endless wars. Honestly, there's so many grotesquely ducked up things it's hard to pick just one. Not to mention there's so much that's classified. That honestly we don't know for sure. The thread is bound to mention stuff like slavery. Tuskegee. MK Ultra. Trail of Tears. Iran. Contra. Jim Crow laws. Vietnam War. Voter suppression. Operation Northwoods. The Patriot Act. Pretending COVID is a hoax to short stock. Bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Executing mentally disabled criminals. And the list just goes on and on and on. How do you pick a most ducked up thing? I think the CIA raping and torturing US citizens is up there. They also imported and distributed drugs to black and Mexican neighborhoods. The tests they did on people are known as MK Ultra, I am pretty sure. The government also made an agreement with Japan to not hold them accountable for their crimes against humanity if Japan gave the US the results of their horrible experiments. Japan raped and tortured their own citizens, but the level of cruelty was beyond imagination. Surgeries done without anesthesia. Weapons testing on live subjects. Dipping someone's limbs into nitrogen oxide and smashing it while they were awake. This was called Unit 731. Many presidents have ordered the military to commit crimes against humanity too. Obama ordered a drone an air strike on a hospital full of innocent people, and so many people died. If there's worse than that, I am not sure I want to know. The 9/11 crap is conspiracy as far as I know. Not something concrete. I don't know. How about irradiating pregnant women? Minorities? Hospital patients and your own ducking allies for a starter? The MK Ultra LSD mind control experiments from the 1950s. Throwing citizens in internment camps during WW2. The incessant need to overthrow democratically elected socialist leaders and/or assassinating them and then planting fascist dictators in their place. Victims: Salvador Allende, murdered by US-backed coup in Chile. Patrice Lumumba, assassinated by CIA in DRC. Thomas Sankara, murdered by US and French-backed coup in Burkina Faso. Jean-Bertrand Aristide, ousted by US-backed coup in Haiti. Anyone care to add to the list? There's lost more, I'm sure. Oh. And the US literally invaded the tiny island of Grenada in the Caribbean to take down a socialist government. Sad.